I am Nancy, and I have an older brother named Keith who is 7 years my senior. Keith has always been academically exceptional since childhood, consistently delivering top-notch performances. He graduated from a prestigious high school and university, making our parents immensely proud. However, the constant praise and high expectations seemed to shape his personality in an unexpected way as he grew older. After completing his education and securing a new job, Keith decided to leave our family home. During his departure, he sarcastically remarked about being unable to endure the mundane life in our house any longer. I can vividly recall the mixed emotions on our parents' faces at that moment: surprise and a hint of sadness. In the past, Keith was a cheerful and cherished member of the family. Personally, I felt a twinge of anger. I never excelled academically or in sports like my brother did. My high school wasn't super prestigious, but I valued the warmth and love within our family. Both Keith and I owe our lives to our parents' support. It saddened me that he seemed to overlook the importance of our family bonds. As a child, Keith was my hero, handling everything perfectly and caring for me. However, as I approached graduation from high school, he began questioning the need for higher education and dismissed my pursuits. When confronted by our parents, he blamed them for his changed attitude. Despite the challenges, I persevered, entering a national university and securing a job at my dream company. My parents' encouragement helped shape me into a kind-hearted person. However, my brother's life took a different turn. He was already married, and neither my parents nor I had met his wife. One day during work hours, I received an unexpected call from my mother. Worried about the unusual call, I stepped outside to answer discreetly. My mother's voice, softer than usual, revealed that my father had suddenly fallen ill. Distressed by the news, I immediately informed my supervisor, rushed to the hospital, and hoped for the best. Entering the waiting room, I was met with my mother in tears, desperately seeking comfort. Anxious, I asked, "What happened, Mom?" I anxiously sat beside my mother, struggling to comprehend how my father, who seemed perfectly fine that morning, had suddenly ended up in this condition. My words tumbled out one after another as I asked the question that refused to settle in my mind. After a brief pause, my mother quietly uttered, "Your father has been diagnosed with cancer." Time seemed to freeze as the weight of her words sank in. The surprise and anxiety within me spilled out in my voice. My mother took a deep breath and, with a tone heavy with sadness, continued, "It's stage 4. The cancer has spread to the bile duct, and they said it's hard to remove it all." Her tears flowed uncontrollably, and I struggled to find words as I listened to this devastating news. Seeking a glimmer of hope, I inquired about the next steps in treatment. My mother nodded somberly, and after a short pause, the attending physician arrived to explain the detailed condition and treatment options. The grim reality hit us as we learned that the illness had progressed more than expected, with confirmed metastasis to other parts. The doctor conveyed the significant risks of surgery and the uncertainty of success. My mother and I, holding hands, tried to come to terms with this harsh reality. The doctor's matter-of-fact words emphasized the gravity of the situation. We were faced with crucial choices: continuing with chemotherapy or opting for support in a palliative care ward. The heavy silence in the waiting room was broken only by the ticking of the clock's second hand. As tears quietly streamed down my mother's face, I pondered how to approach the situation. Despite the challenging circumstances, necessary discussions needed to take place. Realizing the importance of including my brother Keith, I suggested contacting him immediately to make a decision together. With a forced smile, my mother admitted that she had already informed Keith, but he hadn't responded. Recalling my brother's nature and past events, I had a premonition of his potential reaction. Keith tended to get upset when seeking help, avoiding tough decisions. Determined to involve the entire family in this critical decision, I persisted in calling him. After more than 10 attempts, I finally heard my brother's slightly irritated voice. "Why do you keep calling me?" he snapped. Urgently and anxiously, I explained Dad's condition, questioning why he hadn't come to the hospital despite being informed. His response lacked empathy or understanding, shaking me to the core. Unmoved by the gravity of the situation, he dismissed it as unnecessary concern, stating, "There's no point in discussing further. I'm hanging up." Stunned, I was left reeling from the exchange. I found myself in a state of bewilderment, unable to conceal my astonishment at my brother's indifference. I was aware of his lack of a sense of family bond and gratitude, but the extent of his detachment was beyond what I had anticipated. When I returned to my mother, a look of concern was evident on her face. In response to her inquiry about what happened, I explained that it seemed he was quite busy, avoiding the details. My mother sighed deeply, murmuring that it would have been comforting if Keith was here. My father, choosing to spend his final moments in a palliative care ward, quietly passed away a few months after that decision. I conveyed this somber news to my brother over the phone and provided details of the wake and funeral. However, his response was cold, stating he was too busy with work to attend, urging us to proceed without him. True to his word, he didn't appear at our father's wake or funeral. Even my mother seemed shocked by this fact, likely never imagining her son wouldn't show up for his father's funeral. Both family and acquaintances expressed surprise and disappointment at his absence. After the funeral, in a moment of quiet reflection amongst the family, my mother sighed deeply, muttering to herself that he really didn't come. I took her hand and reassured her, saying firmly, "Mom, let's not worry about him anymore. We have to let him walk his path. For now, let's cherish our memories of Dad." My mother tightly squeezed my hand in response, smiling and saying, "Thank you." Unexpectedly, the next day, my older brother appeared at the apartment where we live. His usual expression was replaced with an urgent restlessness. Without any greeting, he demanded to know, "Where is the inheritance father left behind?" Shocked by his demand, I emotionally retorted, expressing disbelief at someone who didn't even attend the funeral now making such inquiries. Visibly irritated, my brother snapped at me, saying, "The kid should stay quiet," creating a tense atmosphere. Attempting to calm the situation, my mother explained that, apart from the apartment, our father didn't leave much behind. She presented my father's passbook on the table, flipping through it to reveal that all the savings were transferred to a different account. My brother, taken aback, asked in surprise, "What is this all about?" Gently, my mother replied, "Your father instructed to move all the money to my account earlier. Also, this apartment's name has been changed, and now it's in my name." Left speechless, my brother clicked his tongue in frustration and left. Watching his departing figure, we were once again filled with admiration and gratitude for our father's foresight and his plan to protect the family. A few months later, my mother unexpectedly fell and was rushed to the hospital. The family was filled with shock and concern upon learning that she had pneumonia in a more advanced stage than initially thought. Despite feeling relieved when she was diagnosed with a minor cold at a small clinic, detailed examinations at a major hospital revealed a much more severe condition with only about 3 months to live. Hearing this news left me at a loss for words. I found it hard to believe, especially considering how healthy she appeared. Tragically, just a few days after the 3-month mark, my mother quietly passed away. The absence left behind an indescribable stillness and sorrow. Filled with guilt and grief, I questioned why I hadn't noticed sooner or taken her to a larger hospital immediately. Even after learning about my mother's pain, my brother showed no signs of coming to our house. My aunt, my mother's sister, and I handled the arrangements for the wake and the funeral. Understandably, it was a significant shock for my aunt that my brother didn't appear at our mother's last rites, just as he hadn't for our father's. Although my aunt was extremely outraged, I felt that expecting anything or saying anything to my brother was meaningless, recalling his past actions. However, a few days after the funeral, as my aunt and I were sorting out the heirlooms, my brother appeared again, accompanied by his wife, whom we were meeting for the first time. "Where's Mom's inheritance? She must have left something, right?" My brother brought up this question from the beginning. I was both shocked and dumbfounded. My aunt, equally stunned, stared at him in disbelief. The most astonishing thing was that beside my brother stood his wife, my new sister-in-law, who neither met our eyes nor greeted us, just standing silently next to my brother. Even more shocking was that my brother did not even visit our mother's grave. Brother, please at least pay your respects to our parents. At the very least, visit Mom's grave, I said calmly. With a sneering laugh, my brother responded, "Does that even mean anything?" He quickly followed with, "By the way, how much of Mom's inheritance is left?" At that moment, May's expression changed drastically. In a voice filled with anger, contrasting with her usual warmth, she sternly admonished Keith. "How can you think of such things at a time like this? Nancy is managing the funeral on behalf of both of you, putting in all her effort. Shouldn't you act with a bit of gratitude, thinking of your parents?" Ignoring our aunt's anger, my brother responded dismissively, "Auntie, it's none of your business. Don't interfere." With these demands from my brother and sister-in-law, the atmosphere in the room became cold and tense. Behind my brother, my smiling sister-in-law said, "Of course, I remember your name, Nancy. Do you plan to keep all of your mother's inheritance for yourself?" "Sorry, but we can't allow that. This apartment is so lovely. I think it's perfect for us." I never imagined that my brother and his wife would say such things. "Why should I have to leave for the sake of both of you?" I asked, my voice quivering. While twirling her finger, my sister-in-law continued, "This apartment has just been renovated, and its location is amazing. It's close to the station, and there are plenty of shops, so we'll be living here." At the peak of my anger, I confronted my big brother, asking, "All you care about is the inheritance. What are you thinking?" Unable to hold back, I raised my voice, turning away. My brother let out a heavy sigh. Such vulgar behavior. "Do you think raising your voice solves everything? We'll be back here in 3 days. Have everything ready to move out by then." With those words, their intentions became crystal clear. A mix of my anger and sadness bubbled up, and I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. But this wasn't just a one-time event. I had to think about what to do next. Determined, I wiped my tears, and my aunt gently tapped my shoulder, handing me a letter. The delicate handwriting of my mother adorned the envelope's surface. "What's this, Auntie?" I cautiously opened the envelope, my aunt explaining, "Your mother entrusted this to me for a just-in-case scenario. She told me to give it to you at the right moment." Tears formed in her eyes as I unfolded the paper inside. My mother's beautiful handwriting filled the page. "To my precious Nancy, if you are reading this letter, it means I'm no longer in this world. I'm truly sorry for our parting," it began. A warmth filled the back of my eyes, tears beginning to flow. The letter continued, "You might have Keith visit the house concerning the inheritance, but don't worry, everything that your father handed down to me is now yours." I was at a loss for words, unaware that my mother had thought this far ahead and prepared everything in advance. The letter expressed her apologies for leaving me alone suddenly, but mentioned she was at peace, having witnessed how much I had grown into a wonderful person. While learning is essential, it's not everything. The kindness and compassion you learn through your interactions with people hold the most value, she wrote. Expressing pride in me, my mother stated, "Your father and I were genuinely happy to see you grow up with such a warm heart until our last days." The letter conveyed heartfelt gratitude, leaving me overwhelmed. Despite the tears blurring the words, I was determined to take in every sentiment my mother had conveyed and continued reading. She revealed that following my father's wishes, she had secretly changed the apartment's ownership to my name. "I'm sorry for using your seal without permission, but it was both your father's and my wish. Please don't be angry," she wrote. The letter encouraged me to persevere through life's ups and downs, urging me to stay strong and find happiness. The letter ended, and tears streamed down my face, wetting the paper. My aunt, standing next to me, pressed her eyes and shed tears alongside me. "Your sister truly cared about you. In her heart, you were a treasure," my aunt said gently, holding my hand. From the envelope, a bank book in my name emerged, revealing a substantial amount, likely the inheritance my mother had saved for me. A few days later, my brother and his wife showed up at the house without even knocking on the door. "It's time for you to leave, just as promised, right?" my brother sarcastically said. As I stood still, my sister-in-law became irritated, demanding, "Isn't it your duty to leave quickly?" I took a deep breath, looked them straight in the eyes, and calmly stated, "Actually, this house is now under my name." The room's atmosphere became tense. My brother and his wife looked at each other, exclaiming, "What kind of joke is this? I am the eldest son. I should inherit the house, right?" My brother said, clearly shaken. Beside him, my sister-in-law stared at me, saying, "This is the first I've heard of this." However, I had decided to state the facts. The house and the inheritance are all managed under my name, so there's nothing to divide. My brother frowned and insisted, "Then hand over half of that inheritance to us." I questioned, "But this money was left for my future and to ensure that I take care of the house. You always looked down on me, and now you're asking for money. What changed?" His face turned red, and surprisingly, my sister-in-law exclaimed, "Wait, what is this? This isn't what we were expecting." From what I gathered, my brother recently faced significant trouble at his job and was subsequently fired. Not only that, but he and his wife were moving from one-day job to another, seemingly in a tight spot financially. With my revelation, their expectations were shattered, and they began bickering, placing blame on one another. Calmly, I said, "This is my house now. If you make any unnecessary fuss, I'll call the police." Trembling with anger, they reluctantly accepted my words and left. Since then, I've had no contact with them. I deliberately deleted all their contact details and began a new life in this apartment, my treasure filled with memories of my father and mother. Now I have a loving partner by my side, and we plan to build a new family in this apartment. He respects my decision and proposed that we take the first step of our new life here. Our future is bright, and I want to pass on the warm love my parents gave me to the children we will have in the future.